Awesome. We're live. Today's February 18th, 2019, and Monday night, this is my community Braindump session. Pretty much a little live behind the scenes look at me prepping for the Thursday night show on for this week. Hello, Monica. I'm just doing some prepping for Thursday's show. Tonight I'm just kind of talking about math fundamentals. Hey, Alex. I am prepping my fundamentals list. I got a lot of interesting questions in the past week from parents really reaching out to me. And the really cool thing is the videos are starting to get some traction. So one of the questions people ask me the most is, what should my child study if I don't know what to do to help them? And I've talked about this a lot, but I'm going to actually do a couple of show topics on Thursday nights where I actually just gear down and walk parents through, really what can you do at home to start helping your children with fundamentals, regardless of what stage they're on. So whether your child is a high school student and you feel like they're still struggling with some elementary or middle school elements, which is quite the norm. So if you feel like your child has gone through that, or you're a student and you feel like maybe you've gone through that yourself, don't be discouraged, because fundamentals are really the key. A lot of what I teach and what I've been teaching over the years is primarily fundamentals. That's honestly kind of the magic. People ask me all the time, what grade levels do you teach? I'll give you an example. So I went to the local service station the other night, and the gentleman that's at the gas station, I was like, happy. Oh, it was Friday, and I was like, happy Friday. And he was like, what's so happy about it? And I was like, it's Friday. And he was like, well, happy for you because you're off of work. And I said, well, I still work 2 jobs. I still teach on the side. And he was like, what do you teach? And by that time, there was a little crowd of people, and I was like, well, I teach math. And every time I tell people that I teach math openly, that always strikes up so much conversation, because math is such a sore subject. No pun intended. Math is a sore subject for a lot of people because I think it really it reminds parents of the negativity that takes place at home between the children and the parent when you're trying to help them with homework. Like all of those negative emotions that come about when you're trying to help your child with math homework, and the frustrations that you have as a parent and the frustrations that the child has really come out when people start talking about math. So when people find out that I teach math, it's always really exciting. It's really weird because I was in the Marine Corps, and I remember in my younger days, if I told people, oh, I'm in the Marines or I'm an active duty Marine, people were like, oh, sometimes they'd engage in a conversation, and sometimes they just kind of look at you from a distance. But when I'm in public and I talk to people and I just say out loud, I teach mathematics, it always is a conversation piece. So Friday, I go to the gas station. I tell the guy that I'm off. He's like, good for you. I'm still working. And I told him again, hey, I still teach on the side. And he was like, what do you teach? And I said, math. His whole attitude changed because he was like, man, I need this. And buddy, if you're watching, now you got a partner because we're friends now. So, hey Frank. So basically, long of it, I asked him. He was like, my son's really struggling with math, and I was like, what grade is your child in? Because he was like really going off on like, my child's really struggling with math. So I asked him, what grade is your son in? And he said 1st grade, and I was like, life is not supposed to be that hard in 1st grade. If you're struggling at 1st grade and you still have 10 years of mathematics to go, plus at least college math, you're in for a long road. So I'm hoping that the next couple of shows that I do on Thursday nights are going to be a little bit of liberating information to help give parents some hope and some direction, again, because that's the whole point of the show. So basically what I'm doing tonight is I'm building out, basically kind of revamping the script for the Thursday night show. I'm going to start talking fundamentals. What are the things that I can do as a parent to start helping my child at home right now? even if I don't know the math, or we're not at a place where we're going to do deep dives into mathematics. What can I do right now? And that's a beautiful question. I've had a lot of people the past week ask me that question. So it only makes sense that the whole purpose of me doing the Thursday night show is to help families. And this past week, I've just got really bombarded by the parents saying, hey, where do I begin? So we're going to talk fundamentals. And I posted online today. I posted on Facebook a question asking people, what app do you like to use? And I got some pretty interesting answers. A few people gave me answers. So those of you that did, thank you. I think a couple of people, one of them, my buddy Brian Glaze, he posted, I don't want to look like a liar. I don't even remember the name of the tool, but I'll look, because I downloaded the app, but it really didn't let me play out like an app if you're the parent. But if you're the child, I guess you can log in Prodigy. That's what it is. So I downloaded the app. I set it up as a parent. It's not really an app, but it's a login for an app. And if you're a parent and you set up for your child, you get a username and password. So that seems like a pretty good one. I just kind of played around with it. I'm a fan of IXL. That's IXL.com. They're not affiliate or anything of mine. I don't get paid from them, but IXL is something that I've been using for about the past 3 or 4 years. It's pretty fundamental though, but here's the reason why I think IXL is a pretty good tool. IXL just gives you math problems the same as a child working math worksheets at school. Now, that there's so many different ways to learn. There's 4 or 5 different learning styles that human beings have. And unfortunately, most of the time in school, it's lecture, pass out sheet, and then they try to quantify the learning. And unfortunately, that doesn't always work for children. Not everybody is visual enough to watch, or they're auditory. If they're not really paying attention to you, or they're distracted by other people. So from a fundamental standpoint, the IXL app works really well in this one regard. When I work with children, my goal is to help them be prepared for college. So if I took on a student, and I just took on a new student recently, so Piper, if you're watching, hi. I just took on a new student, and she's in 5th grade. So let's just say this becomes my normal style of teaching. Then I will work with this young lady until she gets out of high school. Well, my approach to working with the children is I'm preparing you for college no matter what grade level you're in. So the IXL app is good in one regard. It's that if you're working a certain element of mathematics and you miss it, it tells you that you're wrong, but then it starts breaking down the mathematical steps. And that's really important, because when you get to college level mathematics, and this is especially for students, or you have a child and you feel like, man, my child can't stand to be in class, or they're always distracted. You know what? That's the beauty of going to the college level. They can take classes online, and most of the math courses in the state of Texas, at least, they use what's called My Math Book, which is an electronic math book, which is basically the math course taught through an electronic version, and it's very similar to IXL. So that's a good tool. So I will be talking, starting this Thursday, I'm going to start talking about fundamentals. What are the fundamentals that my child should know? They should know their multiplication facts, and I'm typing, just typing myself some notes. They should know their multiplication facts. The multiplication facts are the times table. I hate that term. I tell my students all the time, and they're like, oh, I need to study my times table. I'm like, well, pull out a watch. It's just a list of multiples. It's your multiplication facts. And with that, and when they say, well, what should my child know? Your child needs to know their multiplication facts, or the times table, at least 1 to 15. If your child just knows 1 through 15 at any level, and they can progress there. They don't have to learn them all in 1st grade, 2nd grade, whatever. But those are the base standards you want your child to have. And if your child is struggling in middle school, and remember, middle school is fundamental algebra, preparing your child for the real course called algebra, which is usually given at 9th grade. Some schools do it as early as 8th. Some schools do it 10th grade, just depending. But 9th grade, on the average, 13, 14 years old, your children will take algebra. Well, remember, 3 years of middle school is just basically getting them ready for one class. So as a parent, you want to be able to say to yourself, hey, I know that I'm helping my child prep. Make sure they know their multiplication facts 1 through 15. With that, also, they want to know their square roots, their perfect squares, right? And what's a perfect square, Bobby? Well, that's 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25, 6 squared is 36. They want to know 1 through 15. So they want to know that, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, all the way to 15. So if your child knows the multiplication facts and their square roots, 1 through 15, the perfect squares, they're off to a good start. And these are things that you should constantly reiterate with your kids, constantly reiterate with them. And remember, as a parent, you don't have to do anything fancy. And I'm going to talk about this on Thursday, because Thursday I'm really going to start breaking down how do I help children at a young age, because I really don't tutor elementary school kids. So for the gentleman that I just met at the gas station, and parents have asked me saying, hey, my child's in first, second, and third grade. Do you tutor? Not anymore. I do consultations, but I basically would just charge parents for about an hour, hour and a half of my time sitting down with them to show them what they can do at home. But I'm doing the show now, so you don't have to hire me. That's the best part. It's free. All you got to do is watch the show. And so I'm going to start breaking down some of the things you can do. And there's so many things that you can do with the child to make it interesting. And remember, don't be the parent that says, I'm just trying to help them learn it to check it off because they turn in a sheet or they pass a test. I'm telling you, the fundamentals that I'll be talking about starting this Thursday on this Thursday show, are fundamentals that your child just has to have a solid foundation in, period. It's really remarkable that if our children did have a strong foundation in their multiplication facts, square roots, understanding the correlation between fraction, percent, and decimal is huge. And here's the thing, I'll just give you a little secret while I type this up. Fraction / percent / decimal. What do I mean, Bobby? I mean this. Everybody knows that 1/2, right? 1/2, the half, the fraction half. Everyone knows that's half. I get that. It's simple, right? You want your child to be able to look at the 1/2 fraction and automatically know that that's half. We say the word half, but you also want them to know that that's 0.50 or 0.5, and you also want them to know that that's 50%. And that's the kind of stuff that you can start with your children or your grandchildren or the neighbor's children or a dog or a cat at a very early age. So if you're working with money and they're learning, they know they're 25 cents and 25 cents is 50 cents. They know that 2/4 is 50 cents. Don't let them answer you by saying, oh, that's 50 cents. Ask them. Here's an example. You can say to them, okay, 50 cents is the answer, but what's another form of the same answer? And you can say, oh, 50%. Exactly. 2/4 in my hand is 50% of $1. Or you can say it's 0.5, or you can say it's 0.50. So just think about that. With 2/4, with a young child that you're teaching them about math, you can tell them, if I had 2/4, how much money do I have? They can say half $1. They can say 50 cents. They can say 0.50. They can say 0.5, or they can say 50% of $1. That's 5 different formats of the number that has the same value. And that teaches them at a young age that all of that is the same. The example I always use with children is, I always use the transformer analogy. So if any of my former students watch this video, you'll remember this all the way back to 2010 at Tech. Bumblebee. What is Bumblebee? Bumblebee is nothing more than an alien robot, right? He's yellow. Everybody knows that. But if you had to describe Bumblebee, so I'll ask a child, describe Bumblebee for me. So I have my eyes closed, right? Got my little blindfold on. Describe Bumblebee for me. And some of them will say, well, he's a big, tall, yellow alien. And I'll say, awesome. Does he walk on 2 legs, 4 legs? And they'll say 2 legs. And some will say, well, he's the yellow car. And that's the perfect setup for helping teach your children form the different forms of something. So I'll say, okay, so is Bumblebee the car or is Bumblebee the walking alien? And they'll say he's both. And then I'll lead in and say, oh, so basically Bumblebee takes on different forms, right? And they get that. So when a child gets that concept that it's the same thing or same person, he looks different. That's how you start introducing, okay, well, when you have 2/4, you have 50 cents, which is also 0.5, which is also 0.50, which is also 50% of $1, which is also 1/2. And that kind of stuff you could do at home with your child while you're making dinner or you're cleaning or you're just having conversation in the car and you say, hey, let's turn off the radio and let's practice some math facts. What is a dime? And then they'll say a dime's 10 cents. Awesome. What is it as a fraction? When it's in fraction form, it's 1/10. What is it when it's in decimal form? 0.10, 0.1, or 10% of a dollar. So those are the kind of things that you can do with your child easily. And again, on the show on Thursday, I'm going to start elaborating to those points a little bit more. Just really start giving some people some insight that can kind of help guide you. So if you're struggling and you're like, hey, I'm really trying at home, Bobby. I'm really trying at home to help my child, and you're just looking for some fresh ideas. And I don't have all the answers. I'm just going to tell you some of the things that I've done. But again, regardless of what creative method you use to help your child, here's the thing. I want you to focus on the list that I give you. So multiplication facts, 1 through 15, square roots, 1 through 15, exponents, square roots and exponents, 1 through 15. So you want to know your exponents and your square roots, and you want to know, so your perfect squares, and then you want to know fraction, percent, and decimal. Now, the fraction, percent, and decimals you want to know is you're going to want to know 1/2. You're going to want to know 1/5. You need to know 1/4. You need to know 1/3. You need to know 1/10. I think that's pretty much it. 1/2, 1/5, 1/4, 1/3, and 1/10. Believe it or not, those are the most common fractions used in most standardized tests. So if your child recognizes 1/5 as an example, sees if your child, Mr. Polito, I hope you're kidding. So if your child, you're probably paying me back because I was a terrible student in English, but not in math today. So let's just say, for example, if your child sees 1/5 as a fraction on a test, and if your child looks at 1/5 and immediately knows that's 20 cents, or that's 20% of a dollar, they're going to be able to function within the math problems better than the child who doesn't, because the fraction usually stops most people from the thinking process, because we have such a fear of fractions, because we don't fully understand them, because we never fully learn them, that it hinders the ability to do the one problem on the test and move on, which probably would have led them to be very successful. But again, we're held back by that fundamental knowledge. So, oh man, if anybody went to the North Side and you were with me in high school, and you know that my most influential teacher is commenting right now, it's like the tables have turned. I'm working on being a Renaissance man, Mr. Polito, just so you know. So anyways, so fractions, 1/5, 1/4, 1/3, 1/10, 1/2, multiplication facts, square roots, exponents, and understand the correlation between the fraction, percent, and decimal. Those are quick, easy wins. And again, the reason why I asked about apps online is because you can find apps online. Make the practice time that you and your child do at home, make it fun and engaging. It's okay if they use an app. It's not cheating. Don't fall into the trap that homework has to be this hard, daunting thing. It's like detention or prison. Homework is practice at home, preparing for the big game. And the big game is every quiz, every test, every standardized test, and the next grade level. And again, if you have a child, so you have a child as an example. Sorry, my nose is itching the hell out of me. I think it's because I'm being distracted. But if you have a child, let's say you have a child that's in 9th grade, 10th grade, right? We'll even go as far as say 9th or 10th grade. And you know they're struggling with the fundamentals. You've got to help them break through that, because listen to me, they're going to need the math. They're going to need those math skills in their life, and you're doing them an injustice if you don't encourage them. So if I had a 9th grade child, and I've had a 9th grade child that did not know the fundamentals that were as easily as multiplication facts, basic fractions, an app together, no matter how cheesy or corny that might sound, you need to strengthen those skills. So I'm going to discuss that again further on Thursday's show. So I'm going to start probably right now a 2-part series on fundamentals. I could probably stretch it out to about 3 different parts, because I can also start giving some examples of things that I've done with bouncy balls, things that I've done with cards, dice. There's all sorts of things that you can do to engage with your child. So if you have any, thank you, Tony. Thank you, Tony. So if you have any particulars, yep, you're right, Sandro. Road trips, yep. There's a million different things. I mean, if you ever even go shopping with your child, it's really, really simple. If you go shopping with your child and then you see a sign that says 20% off, that's a perfect opportunity, because think about it. You're not necessarily teaching them math all the time. Our job as a parent is to enlighten our children, right? To educate them in all areas of their life. Well, I see a sign that says 20% off. A great question is, I don't even know what 20% off is. And start coaching your child through, what does that mean, 20% off? What does that mean? What does that mean? And if they've been studying the fundamental fractions, it might trigger, well, I know that 20% is 1/5. And I say, awesome, what does 1/5 mean? Or what is 20% really? It's 20 cents. So what does that mean? Does that mean the item is only 20 cents? And you basically can start helping your child realize that 20% off means 20 cents for every dollar. So if something's $1, it's 20 cents off. If it's $2, it's 40 cents off. But again, there's all sorts of ways. Sanjo, you're right. You nailed it. There's so many different things you can do with cards. I used to do this bouncy ball game with kids when they were younger, where I just take like a racquetball and you got to do this little one hop, right? You try to make it engaging, kind of motor skills plus, helping them pay attention. But, I bounce a bouncy ball to them and I'd say 7. And they'd have to throw it back, and I'd have to catch it, right, and say 14. And I'd throw it back, and they'd catch it and say 21. And we'd see if we could get to 70 without anyone dropping the ball. And then if no one making a mistake on the math. So that's kind of a fun thing you can do with your kid. You could take turns doing that, saying, hey, I'm going to go first, and say 7-14. They go 21-28. So just some ideas, but good point. If any questions tonight, no questions. Everybody's chill. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Sandro. Thank you, my captain. Oh, man, payback is something else. That is amazing. I love you, Mr. Polito. I love you dearly. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I've been streaming for about 22 minutes. Again, this is just kind of behind the scenes. I'm just thinking out loud. But I'm going to start a 2 to 3 part series starting this Thursday, dealing with fundamentals that you can start helping your child at home without even getting into the real mathematics. Knowing those knowing, this is awesome. This is really awesome. This is like a landmark in my life. This is a milestone in my life. A milestone in my life where I just had a picture of young Bobby Ozuna being absolutely disruptive class clown. And most of my classes between, I don't know, 1st grade and 12th. And I pictured how teachers must have felt tolerating me all those years. And to sit here tonight and talk about mathematics, trying to help parents, seeing my former English teacher just haze me. That's great. I love it. You're an awesome man. I love you. So anyways, if no one has any particular questions, that pretty much wraps up. I'm going to start again. I'm going to do a 2 or 3 part series starting this Thursday. I'm going to start discussing fundamentals that every child should know. If you can help your child just master those fundamentals, if your child or grandchild or nephew or niece, if you can walk away and say, hey, Bobby, they've got a super solid foundation, and a super solid foundation is not, just so you know, is not, we've practiced our multiples of 7, 20 times on a Wednesday and we know them. A super solid foundation is you do that for several weeks. Because remember, there's a quote that I fell in love with years ago that says, great athletes practice until they get it right. Professional athletes practice until they can't get it wrong. And that's pretty much the attitude I have with the children that I work with. It's repetition. It's doing something over and over again and being challenged from different angles. Thank you, sir. It's being challenged from different angles. So again, depth of knowledge is a level of questioning and a level of analytical skills that our children really need to aspire to. And that starts at home. It starts at home to say, I can help my child think for themselves. And no offense, remember, if they're in a structured classroom that has a start time and stop time and multitude of kids and a curriculum and a mandates, they're really being taught how to be productive members of society from the perspective that they can follow orders and listen. And that is absolutely perfect, and it has a place. But there isn't always a lot of time within the curriculum to encourage thought. And that's where you come in as parents. And that's where I'm trying to come in with the show, is to offer you some insight as a parent to say, how do I keep my kids thinking at another level? So every time, again, you're working with them on a particular problem, ask the same question in multiple ways. Start with the answer and go backwards. Teach them a little bit of reverse engineering. Don't just ask them the quick answer, 3 + 2 is 5. You want to ask them a totally different question. Say, why is 3 + 2 5? Show them because 5 - 3 is 2, and then 5 - 2 is 3. And you just start decomposing different approaches to an answer. It's not enough to say they got it right to turn the sheet in. You want to teach them to think for themselves, because that's really what we need. We need pugnacious, smart-mouthed kids to grow up to be free thinkers, to see a difference that they can make by bringing in change. And that's only going to happen by the encouragement and the inspiration that you offer them at home, and what I hope to offer you as parents on this show. So I'm going to officially stream a fundamentals course starting this Thursday, and I don't even know what Thursday's date is. The 20th, Thursday the 20th, 8 o'clock. I'm still debating if that's going to be on Facebook Live right here, or if I'm going to cut back over to YouTube. I prefer YouTube because I got some really cool intro music and stuff like that, and I can switch screens and show you more things than I can on Facebook. So again, I'd like to encourage you to get out to YouTube if you're not already subscribed, and I'm going to keep doing this, and go out and subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to click the little notification bell. That way, every time I post a video, if this material is important to you, if it helps you, if it's helping someone else you know, click the little subscription bell. So every time I post a video, I'm trying to post 2 videos a week, this being one of them, and then the actual live streaming show on Thursday nights. So I'm going to, let's see, youtube.com/iTutorMath. Nope, youtube.com/C/iTutorMath. I don't know why YouTube does that. But if you're not already a subscriber, I'd like to encourage you to go out to YouTube and subscribe. If you know a family that has children that are struggling with mathematics at home, people that are really, really struggling, and share it with them, please. I'd like to encourage, that didn't work. Maybe I did that wrong. Look at that. I don't even know my own show. Shame on me, right? That shows you how much I don't go visit. So my son always likes to say, hey, Dad, are all those views you? Well, no, they're not me. Here's the proof. There you go. Update. Let me, here's the update. There you go. So again, if you're not a subscriber, I'd like to encourage you to subscribe. If you know a family that the information is relevant to, please get out there and share it with them. Share this video also. So if you watch the video, kind of see how I'm formulating the ideas for the show, I'd like to encourage you, please. If you believe in the cause, I don't make any money off this. This is totally my time. I don't want to leave the world without offering all the insight that I have, that I've been doing for the past 15 years to help children and adults with mathematics. So I'm asking you to help, and your support is really simple. You can like this video, or you can subscribe to the YouTube channel, or you can really just, as soon as this video is done posting, just get out there and share it with others. Share it on your wall and post a little note and say, hey, if you're a family struggling with mathematics, because I want to engage with you. So those of you who have been reaching out to me, and the families who've been sharing their struggles with me, hey, that's beautiful information. It's not that I'm happy that you're struggling. I'm just happy that you're sharing it with me, because it helps remind me of things that I can talk about on the show. So I'm going to cut off right there. It's been about 28 minutes. I'll see you Thursday night on YouTube, possibly Facebook. The safest bet for you is to go out to YouTube and subscribe, and you won't miss anything. Otherwise, I'll be here. Thank you again, and have a wonderful, wonderful night.